Forum. I'll call the January 15th Airport Authority meeting to order. First order of business is approval of the minutes for the December 18th regular meeting.
Thanks.
Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes have passed. Next item of business is approval of the Airport Authority minutes for the January 8th special call meeting. If you remember, we just basically was a discussion on the notice of availability. I think we did a pretty good job of capturing what's in there. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes from the special meeting last week.
Okay. All those, do I have a second?
Is there any more?
Oh, yeah, there's some on the big table.
We have a second. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the January 8th special call meeting, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, that's passed. Okay. Next item is informational update on the East Side construction project. I was out there Sunday, and they had gotten they had gotten coats of asphalt on both connectors. And the foreman told me that they would be finished tomorrow. That doesn't mean they'll open the runway tomorrow, but I think that by the end of the week they will be finished with the connectors. Does anybody have any other insights on that?
When do we have that noted? Through the 25th?
I think it's through Saturday.
Or through Saturday?
There's a.
20, what's that, or something like that?
I think it was the 21st.
The 21st would be Monday.
Following it up.
Yeah, I think that's when it was supposed to cancel on Monday morning, 21st.
There's no problem canceling early if they finish.
No,
No.
and it all depends on whether or not they have any issues with weather or whatever, I think.
Bad rainstorm Saturday.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's supposed to rain, and then it's gonna be too cold to lay asphalt on Sunday, which means it's probably too cold on Monday. So you may have to extend the notice, but we'll know by Friday whether or not they'll be ready to reopen. There's still some lighting that needs to be taken care of. That's in that safety area too.
Okay, okay,
But we're gonna be close.
Yeah.
we'll be close. Okay.
That's pretty
All right.
cool.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Yeah. Okay, the next item of business is to review the notice of availability for the East Side hangar ground leases. I want to thank Josh for putting everybody's thoughts together. I think we've got a good work product, and what I'd recommend we do is we maybe just everybody look at it one more time and make any more suggestions, and we'll approve it in our February meeting.
Did I get it to everybody? Everybody, okay. I just wanted to make sure, because I sent out a first email and a second email. I just wanted to make sure everybody got a copy of it.
You got it?
Yeah. Did you say we might have a few more changes to discuss?
I had one, and it's a very minor change in paragraph 23, and this is piggybacking on something that Ray had already talked about. But Ray had emphasized that the performance and labor materials bond needed to be payable to the authority, as opposed to just having some sort of a general bond. And I don't understand fully the ins and outs of it, but I think that was his recommendation. I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it sounded like we would be better protected if the authority was somehow named in both of those bonds. And so, as opposed maybe to having just a bond for the contractor, having I don't know if you add the authority onto the bond or if the bond is payable to the authority in the event of non-performance. But that was something that he had recommended that's not in there right now. And Vince, you can probably speak
The
to
wording's in the bond that if it's my hangar and Chip's the general contractor, he gets the bond, and it will name me as the beneficiary, and then our lease should tie it to me. So then through that lease, that bond becomes payable to get it done if that contractor defaults.
Okay.
If me as the leasee defaults, then that bond goes into effect because it transfers through that lease. So really where that's tied together is in the lease.
Okay.
And because I could be wrong on this, I don't think you can get a bond payable to the eventual owner when you have a lease to a contractor, but you tie that lease to that bond when we write that lease.
Okay. And
Then that bond transfers to us if the leasee goes bankrupt, or if the contractor goes bankrupt, he has the bond to go out and get another contract.
All right, then maybe we just need to include a real simple sentence that says that both bonds ultimately could be transferred to the authority through the lease document.
That's correct.
Okay,
I agree with that 100%.
all right.
Because when I get a bond on a project, the bond is on my name.
And not to the owner's name, if you're a lessee.
It's not to the owner's name, it's to the contractor
Okay.
that the owner has hired.
All right,
And then they have a lease with them or a contract with them that they go through, so it transfers that way.
all right,
That makes sense?
yes.
Did anybody else have any more comments? I mean, the ones I saw, the last ones looked pretty benign. I mean, like italicizing things and, just.
On the $10,000 deposit, which we're now calling a deposit, I didn't include this in my suggestion, Josh, but I think we ought to have a comma, which shall, at the end of that sentence, make the period a comma, which shall be refunded if no lease is executed upon request.
I'm glad you said that, because you made that comment to me in the email. The only question I had for the board, is there any circumstance in which that deposit is forfeited, or any portion of the deposit is forfeited?
I would think if they signed a lease and then backed out,
Okay.
then in lieu of suing them, we'd keep their $10,000 cash.
All right,
Otherwise, I think if no lease is entered into, then it's refundable upon request, whenever that might be. If we decide or they decide no lease will be forthcoming, then they request the refund at whatever time frame that is.
Because circumstances change, and, that's when we were talking about if somebody agrees to do it, but then they don't do it.
right.
And then we lose Joe and Will when they came by and said, oh, that's tied up.
Yeah.
And then they want to get out after that, then we lost some potential clients. We'll be reimbursed that $10,000.
After the lease is executed, but if they then decide to back out without building a hangar.
It'll encourage you to be serious or not.
Right,
Yeah. The $10,000 will encourage you to be serious.
okay. All right, good. That was the only question I
Encourage
had.
me.
but All right, so that's all I have as far as that goes, but I'll get a hopefully final
And
version.
you and I have had a conversation that you're working on getting our lease document in shape. So that-
Yes, that's right. I'll be working on that, and it's in pretty good shape as it is. I mean, we've gone through it in 2014 and again in 2016. But yeah, we'll go through it and make sure anything we need to tighten up is tightened up. Or Vince, for example, if we don't have any language about assigning the bond, then we'll add that obviously. So things of that nature.
And we can adopt Gulf Shores' escalation clause if you want to, but you'll have to explain it to me. So.
It's going to take all day.
I know. I like ours is basically the CPI index over 5 years or $10,000, whichever is highest.
Theirs is very complicated, and in my personal opinion, by the time you pay the people to calculate it and keep up with it and justify it and all that, you're probably better off to just use it.
Okay. All right,
And
well,
which brought up a question I forgot to ask, though.
Okay.
How do we have that worded on our CPI? We said compounded annually.
Compounded, adjusted every 5 years, but compounded annually based on the CPI, which is what I understood.
Which if CPI was 3% every year, where are we going to be in 5 years?
Up there.
Compounded.
Pretty well.
Pretty good number.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to get tenants if it's compounded annually instead of averaged over 5 years.
No, okay. I
It should
see.
be averaged over 5
Yeah,
years.
averaged over
If we
5.
compounded annually, what were we talking about in there? 3%?
So the way I do the calculation is there's a CPI index that, we just did it for the Continental Motors. There's a CPI index that came out December 31st, which is like 2137. Then there was one that was in September of 2016, was 2077. So I subtracted those two and divided it by the smaller number, and that was a percentage. And it was like 3% over that 3-year period or whatever.
But if the CPI is 3% every year and we compound it annually, we're going to be at about a 20% increase every
5 years.
every 5 years, which means when you get 6 times that down the road,
It's a big number.
you're going to be paying 2.5 times to 3 times what you were when you started. It's going to be a hard sell.
Don't we
Somebody else
just,
averages.
Yeah.
wouldn't we just track what we've done with Ray and Cedar Creek?
Theirs hasn't adjusted yet, it adjusts this year.
But it's an average.
But it's,
It's an average.
but I mean, just as far as the formula is.
Yeah, I mean,
concerned.
it's the same one that Continental has. I agree with you, I don't think that.
I think it's averaged instead of
Yes,
compounded.
yes.
Right, it is. It
And we've
is.
got compounded in that document.
Okay, well, which is what I thought there was some discussion about that,
Yeah.
which is,
Well, I don't think I understood.
maybe not.
I think we would be
understood that.
smart to mirror those two anyway.
Okay.
What do y'all think?
Yes.
Yeah.
What paragraph is it? Hard time putting my finger on it, but I'll make that
Towards the end.
change. I'll make that
I'm
change.
glad you mentioned that because I meant to respond to that and I forgot.
Okay, anything else? Chip, you want to comment on the hangar situation in Baldwin County?
Well, as everyone knows, there's a waiting list at every airport in Baldwin County. And I forgot how big ours is here, but like Foley's is 70. And they're getting ready, and, albeit with Foley, usually, quite a few of those don't belly up when it comes time when a hangar comes available. So, Foley's getting ready to build either 8 or 10, 8, and Bay Minette's building, 16, right? 20 T hangars. So that gives you an idea. So we need to.
They're building themselves, they're not doing, the city of Foley and the city of Bay Minette are building them, is that right?
Yeah.
Their access taxiways for Foley will be
Funded.
by AIP, but they're picking up the tab on.
For the hangars.
They did receive a state grant for $250,000 to assist with the hangars and such a thing there.
So, I think that's something we need to pay attention to, because I think, we've got a big waiting list here, and, I have more people inquiring me about T hangars and big hangars, so I think we need to really focus on that after we kind of get this thing going to
Yeah, I think
build
so.
some T hangars.
Yeah.
Not counting the state troopers, how many T hangars we have out there?
Let's see, we got, 24.
24. And they're adding 20 in Bay Minette and 16 in Foley?
No, they're just adding, 8 in Foley, I
They're
think.
at 8 in
8 in
Foley.
Foley
Mhm.
and 20 in Bay Minette, and we have
Foley
24
have
total.
16 new ones, or basically 16.
And they use about 12 to 15 hangars planes are stored in the north hangar. They jockey that, yeah.
Just give you an idea what the demand is. I think in Atmore, they're full. I know people that drive from Pensacola to Atmore just so they can have a hangar for their airplane. So it's, I think we need to keep focused on that in the future also.
And that rent goes through Continental then? It doesn't come back to us, right?
We haven't
Right
decided.
now, we have a lease from Continental, and they get the checks from the individual, yes, yes.
Now, up until this last contract with Continental, for the 2 rows that the airport authority built, the revenue came to the airport authority.
Okay.
So I think that's something, there are all kind of options, whether we want to build it or we want to let someone else build them. It's, there's, down at Gulf Shores, one guy built 2 rows of T hangars, and then he basically condoed them out and sold them, and he managed them. So, they're all kind of options. I'm sure we would probably have people that would entertain the idea of building them themselves and managing them themselves.
Our groups coming together, and building a large hangar, then, put 5 to 6 planes in them.
If we did our incomes, land rent and fuel, the fuel fee.
I figure this is pretty rudimentary, but I figure that a new hangar, an 8,000-foot hangar with ground lease and new fuel gives about $13,000 of new revenue to the authority. You understand what I'm saying? That's hangar rents, ground lease around $6,500 to $7,000 at the current rate, and then you put in 5 to 6 planes, or you bring in 2 jets, then you get another $6,000. So around $12,000 to $13,000 of new income for every hangar we fill up out there. Not moving hangars around, but moving new people into the airport.
And the intent when you receive federal funding is fairness. They don't want you just to have corporate hangars with corporate jets. They want you to be fair across the board for all users of aviation.
Okay, so
What is the waiting list at Fairhope Continental? Do you have an
But
estimate?
Joe sent it out, didn't he?
yeah, I mean Kyle,
Joe.
Joe sent a.
Y'all remember that, Joe?
Isn't it about 20 or 25?
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'm not sure that's a waiting list, or is that the list that wants to build a new hangar?
And I don't know, you've asked for the waiting list from Joe
I
and
don't think
never
I've ever-
received
yeah,
it, so
yeah.
I don't know.
Continental plays kind of slippery on that. That would be a challenge that, I wish they were here to not
To do.
defend themselves, but to kind of explain what.
Foley Airport Authority has all of the hangar rent. The Lightning only has the building there, so they keep a list at Foley and
The
Continental.
city keeps
The
a
city
list, but
keeps it.
airport
They've got a,
authority.
they've
We're
got a
here where
manager.
Continental's mercy of what is the list.
So probably, the city has a list and they maintain the hangars.
What I have a list of is 40 people who've expressed an interest about building a new hangar, or being part of a group that builds a new hangar. I'm not sure that's the same as somebody wants to.
T-hangar. Real demand for T-hangars around.
It was kind of interesting because a few years ago, there was, when I moved mine up here, there were about 3 or 4 T-hangars that were available here and at Gulf Shores a few years ago. They
Really?
they had vacancy, but not now.
Okay.
Huh.
Any more discussion on notice availability? Okay, so our goal is for the next meeting, the February meeting, to approve that and get it published and go forward with it. Okay?
Are you gonna send us what's in the other 2 hangars for the CPI, and we can see how that?
Yes, I'm going to basically mimic or, paraphrase what's in the other 2 leases, and that'll be the formula for it.
Okay. Number 5 is update on the request for qualifications for airport engineers and consultants.
Yeah, I typed you up a little memo there, we'll go through it. Bill and I met and sat down and reviewed. We got 5 proposals, all 5 obviously well qualified. Bill and I sat there and talked for a while out to school out there, and after about 30 minutes, I said, well, I kind of picked 3 that I think we need to pursue further, and Bill said, well, I eliminated 2 that I thought we need to take out of the mix, so he pulled his 2 out, and I pulled my 2 out, and we came up with the same 3. In alphabetical order, they're Goodwin Mills, Kaywood, Michael Baker, and Volker. Here's our request that we'd like for y'all to let us do. Right now, we don't know, because we haven't asked. Using Volker, I don't know if they use a fee every time we do something, or if it's when we change something. Exactly how does that process work? So Bill and I talked through this, and Bill can chime in here in a second. We took the East Side developments, okay, we developed a master plan, and we paid Volker a fee to develop that master plan. Then we came out a year later and got some more money that we don't know how Volker gets paid for that. And I guess I should say our engineer of record gets paid for that in submitting the stuff for the AIP and be sure we get future funds. So then we get those funds, and then we have to administer the construction and take bids and advertise, et cetera, for all that. What fee covers that? And then shouldn't we be paying a smaller fee for doing a phase of what we've already paid for the master plan? And then the next year we do the same thing over again, and then next year the same thing over again. So we would like to dive into that, find out what that is, and then pursue these 3, if that's suitable with everyone here, and then come back with a recommendation. Here's what we need to do. And just so happens those 3 are here. So.
Sounds good to me.
Bill, you want to add something to that?
No, in my experience, think I even mentioned this to Joe, you look at all 5 of them, or 3 of them, or 2 of them, and what's the difference? There's not a whole lot of difference, but what do they charge? I was told that, basically same price, but that's not necessarily correct. They can only charge so much to do a particular thing, and there may be a range as far as the markup percentage. I would say 10 to 20. We just need to know what that fee is and what that fee covers or does not cover. And if it does not cover it, how much that fee would be to do that stuff.
And then what's our hourly fee for changes and additions and subtractions and all that? To be fair to everyone, we kind of feel like we need to look into that.
Bill, when you say they can only charge so much for a certain thing, is there some regulation or?
Yeah, I'm just now beginning to understand some of federal regulations says you can't charge any more than 15%.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
one may only charge 10, one may charge 12, and one may charge 15. That's what we want to know from these 3. What are you going to charge us, percentage-wise, fee, and what does a fee include, and what does it exclude?
Gotcha. That's something we all know.
Because right now, Bill and I don't have a clue on that portion of it. And he just emphasized again, all 5 of these equal. These 3 right here have personal knowledge, have something that's a little more local than the other 2, and the other 2 are extremely qualified. They're larger projects and a little less personal knowledge of what's going on, in our opinion. Nothing against them at all.
Okay.
You need a motion?
That would be good, I think.
I move that we authorize Vince and Bill to proceed in accordance with the document.
I'll second that.
Can we request that they send this info to us? That's what we want to do, right?
We want to get with you because
Sure.
you've been doing some of this, and we want to then get up to date on how it's been done, and then we want to sit down with these 3 and get a proposal from them of how they would go
In
forward.
fact, I've got a couple of requests to be paid, and that would be the best way to learn, to see what, how I understand they do it.
If we could just take a year's worth, here's what we've done on.
But your question about when they did the original design, and then when they did a redesign, did we pay them, how does that manage? I don't know that. That's something.
Then we'll just sit down and ask
Ask
them
them,
that
yeah.
and lay it out how you would do it going forward.
I know I
We
can-
use the east side as an example of, hey,
East
this
side's
is
a
gonna be
great
about 5 phases. How would you do this if you did it all over again?
Yeah.
If they come up with a master plan, and there's a fee for that, whatever, does that fee include the solicitation of bids from contractors going
Yes.
through that stage? This is what we need to know, what the fee, and then if we do it in phases, is it gonna cost any more than or any less than?
Bill, you correct me if I'm wrong. Here's what we're saying. Let's use 20%. If the fee to design the east side development was 20%. All right, we pay that. Then we come back and get approval for a section of that. Well, the next year, how much are we paying to administer what we already designed? And then in this case, we laid 2 layers we did a huge dirt excavation and fill. And then the next phase, we did a 2-inch asphalt layout, but we finished the road out here. And now we're putting 7 inches of asphalt on a good bit of what was there, but we are adding in a taxiway and some different dirt work. But we did the design fee. How are we paying you for each of those phases?
Got it. I think those are great questions, and, you can see none of it's spelled out in that detail, though. We can get there. We need to
Right.
get there.
I think for evaluation purposes,
Yeah.
we would need that, and then we would know how to administer it going forward.
Is there a written contract now?
There is a written contract, and we renew the contract, again, with Volker, every time we do an engineering service deal, this is probably the 3rd or 4th amendment to that contract.
That would be one thing we need to probably.
Start right there.
If that's possible.
Don't we have an original contract, we admit it every job we do? Is that?
What you have is you have a general services contract, which is basically the 5-year agreement, what you're sitting on now. And then at each phase, whenever, like say, the master plan is put into place, then when it starts, you say, okay, we're gonna do this phase. And the set of plans and specs are built to cover that phase of work. The engineering fees that are needed to make that happen is one contract. And then the construction inspection for that aspect of the job is part of that contract. Then when it moves to the next year, we get the money from the feds and we do a new engineering contract to update the plans from phase 1 to phase 2 or phase 2 to phase 3 and so forth, from year to year to year, to move forward as you go through. So it's a new contract every year.
And
Job specific, I guess is what I'm saying,
Right.
project specific.
And Bill and I want to be real clear. Neither one of us think it's been done wrong. We don't know how it's been done, and really, there's a lot of equals in these three companies right here, and they're all well represented in what they do. And to make a good, firm decision for the money we're getting for the government and for the airport authority and everything, we need to start with there.
And, just go on record, we've been very successful in getting money from the federal government. I think it's a part of what we should do is have fiduciarily be responsible as we can do. So we have a motion. I seconded it. All those in favor of pursuing the process, Vince, that Vince outlined.
That's an important word there.
The process that Vince outlined in re-upping our 5-year engineering agreement, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
The process did not work January the 2nd.
Okay.
It's technically up. We're probably a year later than we should have been, but we were in the middle of a project, so we continued on.
Yeah,
Is that right, Joe?
That's exactly right. We should have done this last year. We were in the middle of this was the 4th phase. It was just, we felt it was good to stay with the people that we came forward with.
And in fact, didn't the FAA basically
They
advise
concur.
us
They
or
concur.
concur that
They
was the
concur.
thing to
They
do
concur.
under the circumstances?
They concur.
And I think maybe if we go a little step further than we have in the past, it might help us with the FAA some, that we
I think later on in the
evaluate
meeting,
the best we
I
can.
think later on in the meeting, you'll see the FAA has a lot of confidence in this board. So, okay, CJAA Presidential Invitational Fly-In, February 27th through March 4th. This is for information only. This is Zach's Warbird fly-in that week. He said if the weather's good, and I promised him good weather, we'd have between 25 and 35 vintage jets fly in, the pilots and maybe 75 folks and their families. So last year, I think we had 10 or 12. This could be double or whatever. I got a lot of positive feedback from it last year. People, we're not going to open it up to the public, but there'll be jets flying around and, all over Fairhope for 3 or 4 days. So I want everybody to be aware of it. There will be a pilot's reception that Friday night that we'll be invited to. So I hope y'all the advisory board and the board will be invited, and I think you'll get a good chance to meet some interesting people from all the nation. So anyway, that's Zach's fly-in. He's paying for everything. We'll probably sell 5 times our annual amount of fuel, our monthly amount of fuel. Anyway, and it's a pretty good event.
Why don't we invite the public?
Because they didn't,
He doesn't want to.
I think part of it is, they don't have the ability to accommodate a couple thousand people, plus I think there are concerns about liability.
From Zach?
From Zach. Yeah,
Okay.
from Zach.
I'm going to invite my 2 friends, though. People like to go out there and look at it.
Yeah.
2 friends.
I guess we
Said you
get to
could
go,
invite
huh?
your 2 friends, yeah. You
My
and
2
me.
friends. So
He's been to 2 air shows with us, we get to go.
both my friends. Okay. So anyway, I'm going to encourage y'all to go, and I would certainly encourage you to go that Friday night. They're really, these are cool people.
You'll enjoy it.
Okay. Number 7, approve of the fair authorities to join the Aviation Council of Alabama. Chip, you want to talk about that?
It's not the Aviation Council, it's the General Aviation Alliance of
I'm
Alabama.
sorry. My bad.
This Brent. Anyhow, there are, of course, y'all been I've kept you off with that because I'm involved in it. We're in our 3rd year, and we've had some pretty good success with legislative briefings and regional airport manager briefings. Anyhow, so we are starting our first membership drive. So that's, and we decided to keep the membership fees at about $150, so it's pretty reasonable. So I think so far, I think every airport in Baldwin County is going to participate except us. I know I got a call the next day from Foley, and they're going to sign up. So I would like to see us join it. I think it's a worthwhile cause. Their main emphasis is on the non-commercial airports in the state of Alabama, and so if y'all consider, I think we ought to.
$150 a year? I'll make that motion. Or
Second.
you want to make that motion?
I think he presented
You
it.
make
Since I
that motion.
present,
You make the motion, I'll second it.
I'll make that motion.
Let's make sure make sure Cindy gets the right organization we're joining.
General Aviation Alliance of Alabama.
Okay.
So it's got, besides corporate members, you can be individuals, you can be students, fixed base operations.
Are you hitting me up for a membership?
That's how I hit you up twice. Flight schools, let's see.
Okay, all those in favor of us joining the General Aviation Alliance of Alabama, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, signify by saying no. Okay, passes. Chip, you want to give us an update on the replacement bulbs?
Runway lights, let me see. Find Kyle. Of course, as we all know, the first 2,000 feet, the lights are out, and your brother keeps calling me.
Tell them to stop.
Because of the runway construction. Kyle did a status report the other day. 1 runway light's out, 2 taxiway lights are out, 4 directional signs are out. He replaced the bulbs. I think he has 3 directional signs that are now working that weren't. He replaced the bulbs, I think, in almost all of them, and some of them aren't working, so it's not a bulb issue.
It's the circuit board.
Mhm.
And they're exposed in a box, they get wet, and they just break.
Yeah.
And Kyle doesn't feel confident replacing those. We have to actually get an electrician.
This is just for the
Yeah.
4,600 feet we have now. The real lights on runway 1 were out, and I was with Kyle when he called Bill Smith Electric to come fix it, and they dropped the ball.
2
So,
weeks. 2 weeks. That's who brought us to the party. I mean, we could look for another electrician,
Mhm.
but I mean, they are not as responsive as they should be
They forgot, and Kyle reminded them, so they're supposed to.
today.
Yeah, and so that's where we are. But in talking with another airport in Baldwin County, I think lights and a electrical company are just issues that everyone deals with. I don't think it's a perfect solution for that.
Thank you. And we're a lot better than we used to be.
Yep. And also, I was out there the other night, and Continental has replaced all the external lights on the T-hangers, on the 2 South Roads T-hangers. They actually look pretty good, pretty bright, so they're all working.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to, David Scherer just texted me and said he's not going to be here, so I'm going to kind of go through the airport managers and Continental Motors Group report as best I can. And we have, the cameras and security systems are operational, and we're waiting to be invoiced, and I think it came in around $12,000. So we budgeted our part to be around $10,000, so I think overall we're going to have a savings around $5,000 to $6,000 from our part. I have not been invoiced yet, but the system is operational.
And we're paying half, or we're paying?
We're going to pay half. Placement of sound card, you stole my thunder on that. I have a deal where somebody, the guy's going to, next time he's down in April, or when he comes on when he does his routine maintenance, he's found a sound card, he's just going to replace it kind of for free. Okay, so I guess we'll keep that open to it breaks. So those sound cards are $3,000, and at some point in time, that technology is probably a little obsolete.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. T-hanger doors, Continental Motors is replacing them as they have casual labor to do it. That means they really aren't doing it at all.
I don't think so. Garrett, have they done yours?
Mm-hmm.
They did? Okay.
Well, you complain, well, I'm gonna leave it on. 'cause
Mine
you-
they haven't done, but I guess since I'm on the airport board, I'm last on the list.
Well, I don't think so. I
Didn't they
think we
do
ought-
one side? Or that's the flap off the other
That's
board?
That's Garrett's
off
side, we're
his
side by
door.
side, that's his.
I think we just keep it on and we just complain about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
we're
I haven't
not-
seen any of the
If
sweet
it goes
stuff.
away, they're gonna forget about it like they've done for the last, whatever. Repaint, refurbish exterior of T-hangers. I think I talked briefly about this last time, and we certainly can debate whether this is our responsibility or Continental's. The T-hanger that's closest to the, Allen's hangar is what, 22 years old?
At least.
And it looks tired, it's got a lot of rust, it just looks bad. Whether it's our responsibility to paint it, it is our asset.
But that's been in their lease
For a long time.
For a long time. The other two rows we just added last time, so.
I've talked to them about painting it, they have, what I'd like to do is be able to offer, I think we can get it done for maybe $15,000, sandblasted and painted, primed or whatever. I'd like to be in a position to offer them that we will split it with them. And that we could take some of the savings that we had from the security cameras and apply that. It just looks bad.
What does their lease say?
Well, the lease says it just basically says normal maintenance. It's, I have a couple of rental houses and my tenants don't usually paint those for me.
I understand.
I'd like to check into one thing. I know Foley, there's some type of paint they had that had like a rubber base to it when they painted the roofs, so it makes them completely where they don't leak. Let's find out.
Well, I
We
think we
paint
know.
it, that would be kind of a little added bonus, but then you're going to not have any.
But I had somebody go out there and look at it, and you could wipe you gotta have it almost pressure washed, and the paint won't hold paint. You can't just go out there with a roller and paint
Yeah,
it.
no.
It's a lot of work, a lot of
You'll
preparation.
put
Let me-
elastomeric paint on their roof.
Let me take a look at the lease first.
Why don't you do
Because,
that?
they're receiving the benefit of the rent that's
They
coming
are,
in from
they
that.
are.
Been, yeah.
And I'm not trying to get them to do anything they're not obligated to do, but once those were assigned to them, then anything that fell under the landlord
Well,
responsibility.
this wasn't assigned to them, they took this over on the first 25 years ago.
On the first row,
On the
but
first
not
one.
the other two rows that the airport authority built, they did on the
Okay.
last
They
lease.
did, when we assigned it
I'll have to see if I even have that lease then.
well, you've got it, I've got it.
Okay.
If
If it's on the thumb drive.
it's on the thumb drive.
All right.
But,
Let me
I
take a
mean-
look at the
The
lease
last one
first.
was just an extension of that lease with a few
With
changes. so-
changes.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
But they've had those, they've received the rent from those for the first 20 or 25 years it was.
And maybe,
And it might just say general maintenance, which
Yeah.
is not rusting away
Yeah.
due to neglect.
so you're saying general maintenance would not be rust,
I would think it would, but I don't know how their leases are written
Yeah.
either.
Because, just for the two rows they get from us, that's over $60,000 a year in revenue they
it's,
get.
Yes, a lot of money.
What I would, if we don't do it this time, there'll be an opportunity in the next 3 to 5 years to renegotiate the lease. We should get it, we should put that in there. Just like they renegotiated the lease before, we put some, we recited those buildings. We just need to do normal things to keep the airport.
But that north wall of that first one needed.
Yeah,
soon.
it did, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Let's see
We
what
need
the
to do,
lease says.
we need to do stuff like that to keep those
Makes it look
buildings,
good.
which really are ours. I
Mhm.
mean, keep them up to where they need to be. But having said that, I wish they would pay for it. Placement of skylights on the south hangar, y'all approved that expense last meeting. Joe has contacted the guy, but he hadn't come out to do it. But, that's again, you could, they leak, and that's kind of something we've agreed to do, so it's $2,200.
Come on.
$2,200.
And they put their LED lights in there that Continental did, so
Yeah.
you don't need skylight anymore. It's
We should've-
twice- It's better off without sun.
When we put the new roof on there, we did put a new roof on there 8 years ago. We should have just had no skylights. I mean, that, yeah. So the precedence has been set that we have maintained those, done structural things to keep those hangars up to date. Military fuel contract? Please.
Let me grab a seat up here.
Sure.
You think working with the government's easy? It's not. Over the last month, I've made a number of phone calls and emails on this topic here. I've talked to NAS, Pensacola, Jacksonville, DLA Energy, and Gulf Shores, FBO. To break it down, Gulf Shores, the FBO, Shonda there, says it's a difficult, long process to work with DLA Energy, to get a fuels contract. However, she really didn't know how they got chosen to be a preferred vendor. Now, when you talk to DLA Energy from Houston there, they said they don't mind working with us, but they need a validated requirement from a DOD service to initiate a solicitation. And then talking to NAS Contracting again, they said they don't believe they have any current requirements to use Fairhope. Okay, so we've gone
It's like a chicken and egg.
yeah, full circle. So what I've done is, again, requested the Navy. I spent 25 years in the Air Force acquisition. Are you sure you don't have a requirement? I requested the Navy to review their requirements and reassess, and asked if we could present to somebody our capabilities and services to get them on the, get them thinking about this stuff. So the solicitation that went out, and thank you, that's been very helpful. There are 16 Alabama airports.
Were you able to get on that?
Yep.
Good.
There are 16 Alabama airports on this current solicitation right now, which is just being awarded. The closest to us are Flora, Alla Municipal, Bay Minette. If you consider Andalusia, South Alabama Regional, Mobile Downtown, Mobile Regional, and Jack Edwards. And then scattered across. So there's 16 airports. There's quite a few airports. I recommend, like Jack mentioned last time, was attack this politically. If we can get to Bradley Byrne or above to say, hey, talk to somebody in DOD there to flow those requirements down. I will continue to press on with the Navy and maybe find someone in the Coast Guard. But it's very difficult to, get your average pilot to go, yeah, we have a requirement to use you. Mm-hmm. Someone's got to push them to say, look at Fairhope.
Well, they do, after they had talked to us, they do have a requirement to use Fairhope when the winds are such they can't use their other outlying fields. I mean, they use the airport plenty enough that my feelings they should
I guess
contribute.
I guess we have to distinguish between use, touch and goes, and versus stopping.
Right.
Get a drink.
You're doing everything you can but stop and buy fuel right now.
Right.
And the Coast Guard actually does use us because, one, we have the crash truck, and we have, they had 2 or 3 criteria that they said that's why we use you.
Mm-hmm.
So the Coast Guard really did have a criteria why they use us versus other
So
folks.
somewhere, so maybe there's someone in the Coast Guard we can.
Are they buying fuel?
They're not buying fuel, but they're using
They're
her.
using the airport.
And then finally, I recommend, if you have a terminal in works here, that this would be a good selling point to have once we do have something like that compared to the other airports there. So
As far as their ability to serve food and things like that.
yeah, besides just pumping gas here, but I will continue
No,
to
we appreciate
burn up
it.
the phones and the email with the Navy and maybe the Coast Guard. I may even call DLA Energy again. I don't know if some of them are furloughed due to government shutdown right now. I don't think they're soliciting or awarding anything right now. But
But Jack Edwards got on that list and didn't have an ARF truck or a fire station on site. And now they have an ARF truck, but we've got a fire station on site.
the question is, how did they?
And I don't know where the politics lies, but I think that's the same group that were chosen 4 years ago, to be honest with you. that are on that list, because there's like 13 states on there.
Yeah. I don't think, yeah.
I don't know
I don't
how
think
you
it's
get on that
changed,
list.
which tells me, I don't think the military goes back and reviews, updates its requirements. If we got Gulf Shores right here, we got Mobile right there, why do I need Fairhope? And that's gonna be that's gonna be a sell job we would have to do.
Yeah, really got one 10, 12 miles that way, nautical miles. We got one 7 or 8 nautical miles that way, and then another one 7 or 8 nautical miles past it.
It's gonna be a tough,
Yeah.
unless you have something.
Jack
to
Edwards is
work-
gonna fill up though.
And Brooklyn's gonna get busy
They get busier.
with Airbus, other things there.
And the regional's gonna need business.
That's right.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hey, I do want to say something that I actually took one off. Jack got the city to repair all the potholes at the airport.
Okay, on the road, good.
On the roads. So
Good.
that was,
I was hoping those were city roads.
yeah, no, yeah, they are city roads.
Good.
And Jack, I mean, Jack got the city out there to repair the potholes, which we appreciate. Maintenance and upkeep of the backup generator. Nothing really to report. I've gotten a couple of quotes from Thompson's, about $800 a year with 2 service calls. I've got a private individual, that's about $850 a year. Probably seems a little more responsive. I'm really not prepared to make a recommendation. But the guy came out there the other day and it wasn't running. It wasn't cycling. It was out of, it just needs some attention. I mean, we're gonna look silly one day.
Well, when Kyle and I looked at it about a month ago, it was only had about a quarter tank of fuel in it too, so.
Is that generator solely for backup lights?
Backup lights.
It's not any energy for Continental's buildings?
That Continental called me the other day. Their lights were out, and they said, and what can I do about that? The factory was out. I said, well,
Generator's tied to the airfield only.
airfield
Yeah.
backup lights, yes,
And I
sir.
agree with you, we're gonna look foolish if we don't get this fixed.
Or have a service contract and somebody, we can say, well, we do this, so. So anyway, long story short is I'm gonna continue to pursue, what I really want is Kyle and Joe and this guy and myself to kind of take ownership of it and say, look, if, and make sure that every Wednesday when it's supposed to start, one of us is out there and they start it up.
Do you
If
know
not-
what size generator that is? I don't.
I don't know that.
I don't either.
I don't know. I know that I did go back and the FAA paid for it. It's a $250,000 type generator.
How much?
250,000? Bobby,
It was right before our time, but yeah, usually they're isolated to the airfield, and they are, that 250 is about total price, including all the stuff that goes in there, but that's usually, the generator on a ski is usually $100,000.
What KW is that?
I don't remember,
Guess.
that's probably like a 15 or something like that.
Why so expensive?
No, it wasn't
Hey, it'd be
50,
like
50.
It may be bigger now. I know the one we put in regional, like one, 75,
Yeah,
that may be a 50.
Yeah, maybe a 50
50
KW
KW.
out there for that. I was thinking of the regulators are usually 7.5, 15.
what I'll do is I'll get Thompson and the local guy to come make us a presentation next time. We'll put the suit, decide for him. $850 a year, I didn't seem to, but I agree with Vince that if it's not working, we're gonna look really silly.
Yep,
silly.
I agree.
Okay. Treasurer's report?
Okay. This was kind of last minute today. Our bookkeeper Kathy Calmetti took over as of December 1st. So we were kind of reconciling everything with the city since the holidays. So I apologize that the graphs didn't come out correctly on here. But overall, on revenue side, we're caught up. The things that were behind last month are caught up now. You'll see a small shortage on the fuel sales here for December, but we did receive that in the beginning of January, so that's caught up as of today. And nothing surprising there. On the expense side, overall, we're under almost 10% under overall, and Joe and I are gonna look at the grounds maintenance, you know, do we have the right number of cuts budgeted for the year? But hopefully it'll stay cold for a while, so grass will grow. Okay. And the bank balances are building up as we need them to.
And remember, the payment, next principal payment's not due to September.
Yes, so in the overall budget, I didn't want to make this change without discussing it, I put the principal payment on the loan, I think in March, and it's going to ship, it is due in September, so I'm not going to change the amount, so I
Yeah.
feel like I can change the phasing without
Yeah,
making
please, yeah.
anything, okay.
I just made a mistake when I.
Okay, okay, so the total won't change, but we'll see the cost base first. So, and I think it's going well with Kathy, and the city's auditors asked us for all the details since the beginning of this fiscal year, which was a surprise, but I think it's going to be good because they'll be taking a look at it, make sure we've set it up correctly in QuickBooks.
This
and
is
then-
just me speaking. It's been more work than I thought it was to transfer.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been a challenge, but I think we've got a better process, and I think Kathy overall is looking out for our best interest.
yeah, she's good, she's very responsive, so, yeah, the setup, but I think once we're going, I think it should be good, so.
And signature cards have all been updated. I've got, if Jack was here, I've got the PNC signature card to update, but since Jack's not here, we'll have to wait on that.
If we write a check today, Joe, the city's still writing that check, right? We're doing,
We've got our check.
we're doing ourselves, okay,
The city writes the checks only on the grant administration.
okay.
No, we actually write the checks, but then we
They
actually
sign
get
it
them
with us.
myself and Belinda's job, co-sign that check. But the city, no, the city
But
is,
we're writing them
we're writing the
ourselves,
checks,
other than grant money.
so. And the grant monies, yeah, I mean, it's a different story. We're with PNC, and that's where the money goes. There's lots of money, and we pay people, probably pay them a couple of weeks later, just because we make sure all the checks settle and we make sure whatever, okay?
And then I had proposed, I think originally, that quarterly we would look at the the grant kind of
Yeah,
money and the
yeah.
assets, and we just weren't ready to do that this month, so we'll try to have that for next month.
We'll maybe come up with a different report for
Yeah,
that.
maybe a quarterly report on the
Yeah,
grants.
grant, yeah.
On the grant.
Okay, exceptional segue. What about our new grants? I think I sent you all this morning a letter, or a copy of a letter that we got from Kevin Morgan with the FAA. Basically, it was what is basically kind of a call to arms that we're going to have a good chance of getting the money to build the hangar road behind the road behind the hangar. So $350,000. I mean, that's really good news. What do we need to do? Do we need to move forward with engineering on that, or how are we going to do that?
You probably need to pick one of those three guys first. Hank's offering us $350,000. What y'all got?
Yeah, just to kind of summarize what this letter is, this is the letter, the FAA refers to it in short term as the GO letter. It's the initiation of work to start on projects that are slated for the 2019 grant cycle. And in this case, remember, we turned in the pre-application to submit two of the projects, one being the extension of the access road for one, and then the other was the rehab of the apron on the west side. So what they had enough funding to cover for 2019 is the extension of the access road. So what this letter is saying is it's not a guarantee, but in order to get to a point where it has the potential of being a guarantee, you have to have a design completed, a project bid, and a bid price from a contractor for a total amount by June 15th. And so in that letter, if you look on the second page, it has requirement dates for those tasks to be completed. In this case, going back to
No
the...
guarantee?
Sir?
There's no guarantee?
No, there is no guarantee at this point
But you have to
until...
put out the money to do it, right?
Right, you do.
So this is our submittal process that we'd have to approve, and then every time we have to rush it over to the city council in here to get them approved to submit,
This is it.
and then we find out 30 days later, so. But you're
Is this
saying we-
all we're gonna get, 350, or is this just that we've got an identified need?
No, this is, what they're saying is they've got $325,000 funded for the extension of the access road for 2019. In that same paragraph, it says this is not a guarantee, because the guarantee won't come until all the grant applications from all over the region are turned in, and they see which ones take priority.
Is that the way it's written every year?
That's the way it goes every year.
So that would take us east? Is that-
Yes,
is that gonna-
213, and
was
then
that
come
gonna
back
take the
around.
fuel farm and the
Right.
fingers for T-hangers?
Yeah, it would catch those T-hangers that were in that corner where you make the turn and go toward the fuel farm, and then it would extend.
From our north-south entry road, it would go east and circle around to where we relocated the fuel farm and the fingers for the.
I don't know, it depends, the design had to be kind of based on the funding that's available. You know what I mean? So you could just keep carrying the access road all the way around to where it would eventually tie up if you knew that once you got through with design, the bid prices came in, you could bid it as an alternate. Say, hey, stop at the fuel farm for a base bid, or do an alternate to continue the road all the way around until it came back to the pond. And if the bid prices came in good and you could do it off 325,000, then you just award all the base bid plus the alternate.
And I'm not putting you on the spot, but we were kind of budgeting that would get us to the fuel farm.
Right.
With the fingers for the
Right.
T-hangers.
Yeah.
Which means this time next year, we could have access for T-hangers we were talking about.
Yeah, you
And
have
our
your
road for all
road
of
for
that.
your corporate hangars that you guys are worried about and all that.
Sure.
But yeah, that kind of puts the press on for the selection of your engineer choice for the next.
And that bid's got to be done and submitted and approved by the city by
You
June.
need to have engineering agreements into AlDOT by February 15th.
Engineer drawings, not the bids.
No, engineering agreement. In other
Agreement.
words, your contract between you and the engineer that you choose by February 15th. By April 1st, that engineer has to have a 90% design packet together with an engineering report submitted to the FAA and to AlDOT. And bids have to be open for the projects. In this case would be the extension of the access road. The bids have to be opened and submitted to, open by June 1st. And then the grant application based on that total cost has to be submitted by June 15th to the FAA.
All right, will you give me those dates again? I got the June
Engineering-
1st and the June
Engineering
15th.
agreement needs to be sent out by February 15th.
Okay,
And then the 90% engineer's report, plans and
That's what we do
specs and
every year.
safety plan,
April what?
April 1st. And any environmental issues you have, in this case, this project, all that's already been determined.
That's all in that letter, Vince.
And then open bids need to be open by June 1st.
I've been in meetings all day, so I just read headlines, so.
At least you get them.
You didn't get to the fine print.
We may need to have a special call meeting in February.
Well, when's Mardi Gras?
March 3rd,
March
4th,
something?
March
March.
4th.
It's
We
late.
usually don't meet in February because we take Mardi Gras off.
It's
But
late this year.
could we
Mardi
go,
Gras late.
could
Well,
we,
I'm just saying the third Tuesday is the 19th, which, if we're gonna have an engineering contract in place by the 15th.
that's 4 days afterwards, isn't it?
Work.
So we meet early.
Be
It's
no
difficult
good.
today.
So we'd need to meet on the 12th.
Well, I really hate to move meetings around because it's hard to get a quorum otherwise, you know.
We don't have much of a choice, so.
You open bids June the 1st, when can you let a contract?
Once you get the grant.
Well,
Yeah, and the grant would come like August, September.
June, July, August.
Yeah. And FAA does have, they allow us to make that award date, you know, like normally with a DOT job or whatever, when they do a bid, they have 30 days to make the award. where all our contractual
So the contractor's
documentation
gonna hold his price until August.
for 120 days.
That's the way we've done every one of those. They have to wait 120 days.
It's all in the process that the FAA gives the money, and that they understand that prices are gonna be higher for airport work. They understand it, you know, and it's around the board. I mean, if we go look at a county job versus an airport job, you're gonna see higher prices on any airport job you do.
All right, so what I'm hearing, we want to move the meeting up a week in February, is that right?
When's city council meetings? Do you know, Cindy?
Second and fourth Monday, normal.
So it's gonna be the 11th and the 25th. Those are
Probably,
Mondays.
yeah, unless they.
So ours would be the 12th and the,
19.
And we don't need city council approval for the engineering.
not really, we can just, we actually get
No,
this.
it's selected by the board. It's whatever y'all's policy.
So it really, we don't have to plan around them.
We
So
do, all we have to get city council approval for is when we actually apply for the money in June, so.
Well, I was saying, Jack's gonna be here the 11th. So if we did it early enough on the 11th, we know he's gonna be here. And that gives us till, that's a Monday, that gives us till that Friday to get done whatever we decide to do paperwork-wise.
So we'd have a normal board or just a special call
We
meeting?
just have a special call meeting for
And then
that
we-
one thing.
And then do we really need to meet again? I mean, guys, we're all volunteers. I hate to burden everybody with all these meetings, so
We're probably not gonna have a whole lot to talk about.
That's what I'm thinking,
Other than
so-
that, we'd do it all at one time. but
we could have a
do that
special call
first.
meeting that Monday. What time is the Karen's directors meeting?
3:30.
3:30?
So could we do it like
2?
2:30?
Give Jack plenty of time, or? Let's talk to Jack, and
Okay.
that's gonna be probably a 30-minute meeting at the longest about engineering. And then, you know, if we've got everybody here, Jack can go and do whatever he needs to do after that. We could do our regular stuff. That 11th, which doesn't leave us a lot of time, that's 3 weeks.
I'd like to do two things.
Yesterday.
I'd like to approve the engineer of record or approve the, and I also want to get I want to get the notice of availability out too.
That'd be the two biggest items.
two items we'd have to do.
On February meeting.
As a side or second component of selecting an engineer, there's also a contract we have to approve. They have to have the engineering contract by February 15th. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
We gotta have, and the reason for that goes back to one of the points y'all made. That contract gets audited by the state to make sure that the engineer's not gouging their.
So
clients or
when we
wasting the
choose
state.
somebody on the Monday, then it would, could the engineers get us a contract before Thursday or Friday?
Well, the first thing you're gonna have to do is get a general services contract, and then a supplemental agreement to that contract for the job-specific portion of it. But, I mean,
Could we
that needs
ask
to be one of
all,
the questions in your interview.
I was thinking, we
Yeah.
ask all three
Are
of
you
y'all
gonna
for a
be able
sample
to
of that
turn
to
this
go on
around and
this?
get us a contract by the 15th?
And
so
then we
that
could
we
have
can get
that
submitted?
kind of pre-approved, and which is pretty much gonna mirror what we have already, except for the site-specific or job-specific.
Who actually writes the grant application?
The engineer of record normally does.
Need you to tighten up, we were looking for $1 million.
So that, and I'll write you another one.
In Mobile, who writes their?
We write their.
So they, even though that staff of hundreds, they don't actually write them.
The same process that happens with y'all is the same process that goes through. Some airports like Birmingham's, they do their own. I mean, they have like an engineering, a few people on staff that.
Mobile has 3 engineers on staff, I think.
Mm-mm.
That's why
I had never
Birmingham
met
has,
them.
One and two.
Yeah, right here.
that's why Birmingham has 125 fuel farms.
Yeah.
They ride on their own, so.
All right,
There's a bucket city.
So what I'm hearing, the consensus is to move the meeting to the 11th at 2:00. Will, can you, does that work for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Won't work for me, I'm gonna be in Mexico.
So you'd be in Mexico anyway, that's 2:00, 4:00 next week.
Leaving on, yeah.
It doesn't matter. All right, I can do it, And then
The
Pam,
11th.
yeah.
Make sure you get a quorum.
I can do that. Well, I was just thinking the 11th would be convenient for Jack,
No,
because
I
Jack's in
agree, I
Huntsville a
agree.
lot, and he's
I
gonna
agree.
be here that day.
It also gives them time to do what, to
Well,
do
you
what
got-
we need to do.
Gotta give Bill now a little bit of time
Okay.
to call him and say hello.
And then, so we're doing two things, wherever the meeting is, that we gotta get the notice of availability out. Okay? All right. Any other business? That was new business. Any more new business? Anybody from the audience? You want anybody? I have one more piece of business. And I'm not sure what the date, but we're a member of the Chambers, and the Chambers meeting in February, Chris Curry is gonna talk about developments. It's at the Methodist Church in Daphne. He's gonna talk about developments at the Mobile Airport Authority. So, I mean, it's, I'll pay for your breakfast, it's $10, we could have a table. I mean, Chris has come to a couple of our meetings. I think we'd all like to know what's going on with the Mobile Airport Authority. They're invited guests he's speaking on eggs and issues to the Eastern Shore Chamber.
What's the date?
I don't know, I'll send you the flyer. Usually the second Tuesday of the month.
I think they're 100% speed ahead going to Brooklyn. That's the
They are
intent.
too.
That's what they told all the tenants, and I'm one of them, that, hey, we're gonna be in Brooklyn. It's
Well,
just
that
a
kind of
matter
mean,
what time.
I'd like to, when we get this note of availability, I'd like to post one post one in Brooklyn and say, we've got space. Vince, what do you think about that?
Not a bad idea. There's some that are gonna stay and expand, and there's gonna be some that are probably gonna leave. So,
Anything else? Okay, I'll adjourn the meeting at 5:10, and thank y'all for being here.
would you say you didn't wanna be here at 5:15?